Well, hello, and welcome to Trash with a capital T, where we give trashy books and movies the love they truly deserve. And some deserve more than others. I'm your host, Bobby. New videos are posted here every Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you like what you see, give me a like. It makes me feel good, and it helps the channel. And if you want to see more of my content, subscribe. I can always use more subscribers. So, today we are finally talking about a series. I'm waving the book around so you can already see it. A series that I'm surprised I have not talked about yet on this channel. I have talked about R.L. Stine's Goosebumps. I've talked about Christopher Pike, who was kind of like his contemporary during the 80s and 90s teen fiction craze. But I have not talked about Fear Street on this channel. And this book is actually one I had not read before. So I devoured the Fear Street books when I was junior high, early high school, probably freshman year. And I devoured them. Anything I could get my hands on. And actually, when I got into them, the Fear Street Senior series was underway. So I got obsessed with that. Every month I picked up a book. I read it till the end. I loved it. Loved it. Those books are really hard to find now, by the way. And then, the Fear Street sagas and all of that. And then the series kind of tapered off. And somehow this one, Into the Dark, slipped under my radar. And this is one I always kind of have been hesitant to pick up. And I was always a little worried because an interesting part of this book is our main character, Paulette, is blind. And that does actually play into the plot of the book. It's kind of a key plot point. And I was always a little worried about how she would be represented. Not because I think R.L. Stine has ever represented any minority poorly in the past. I don't think he has. It's really just that there was not a lot of representation outside of kind of straight white kids in these books. There were occasionally characters of color, and I don't think there were ever any leads of color in the main Fear Street series. And it's just pretty, and that was pretty standard for the time. I'm not saying that was right, but when you read these books, you definitely had a segregation when it came to books that were aimed at white audiences and books that were aimed at black audiences. And if you were anything that was not those two, you kind of struggled to find stuff that represented you. And God forbid you were looking for queer characters. They didn't exist. I mean, they popped up in very special books like in not Fear Street. Fear Street never had queer characters. Like in Sweet Valley High. And you saw that stuff pop up occasionally, but it was usually like one-offs, and the characters were there. They came out. They had no story other than coming out. And then they went on their merry way, and the straight characters kind of just took over. So I was always a little hesitant because I was curious. I was worried, and it turns out I didn't need to be, about how R.L. Stine would handle and how Fear Street would handle a character with a disability, namely being blind. And the answer is fine. Paulette, the main character, is a great lead character. She's actually probably one of my favorite Fear Street heroines. And I really liked how the challenge of writing a character who cannot see, so you cannot describe visually what she's taking in. She can't describe what someone looks like. She can't describe what something looks like. It's all based on her hearing, her sense of touch, her sense of smell, the way she interprets people's voices because she's very attuned to how people sound. That is all very important to the story, and it's handled very well. Paulette as a character is actually quite proactive in the story. There's some great suspenseful moments in the story with her. I really enjoyed her as a character. And she is probably one of the more proactive heroines for this kind of book. Because sometimes you can get heroines who kind of like sit back and things just kind of happen to them or around them. With Paulette, she's very much in the middle of the action the entire book. So obviously, I enjoyed this one way more than I thought I would. I read it very quickly. It was a very fun, thrilling read. I want to say I read it in under a day. I think I read it in like an hour. It's about 150 pages. So the general plot is we follow Paulette. She's been blind since birth. She's just living her best life in Shadyside. She's in high school. She is a talented pianist. She has a good group of friends. She's generally well liked at school. And she meets a young man named Brad at the music academy where she takes lessons. And she and Brad hit it off. The only problem is people start warning her that there's something off about Brad. There's rumors about Brad before he came to Shadyside that he was involved in some robberies or something. No one knows the exact details, but they're telling her to be careful. And there are moments where Brad does seem kind of off, almost like he's a different person. Even times where he seems dangerous. So, what does that all mean? Well, you got to read the book to find out. And sadly, the book is kind of hard to find, although prices for the Fear Street books have come down a great deal. If you go on eBay, this one has never been republished, and I'm disappointed that it hasn't been, because I actually think the later Fear Street books were pretty solid. Like this and Trapped, which was like the last official Fear Street book before it became New Fear Street when they switched publishers. That book is amazing. This one is a really solid thriller. Very low body count. It's not exceptionally violent or anything like that. So if you want something that is definitely more thriller camp, this is it. There are some books that lean more horror. This one is definitely 100% thriller. And it has a likable cast of characters who don't get annoying, because that can happen. I'm looking at you, the knife. Oh my god, that lead character drove me up a wall. And there's some great, solid, creepy moments. There's a scene. I'm going to get a little spoilery here right now. So there is a scene where Paulette is in her backyard, and her parents and her have set the backyard up. It stays the same way all the time so that she can easily maneuver and get back into the house. And there's a guide rail that can be moved around, but it's set up so that she can find her way back. And she's studying in the backyard, and she hears someone come into the backyard. And she's like trying to call out and have them respond so she could hear who it is. And she hears them like moving around, and she hears stuff moving. And suddenly the guide rail's gone. Everything's moved around. And she has to try and make her way back to the house. And she can't just because she's blind, she has to kind of figure it out. And she does. But that scene is very tense because she's like, I know someone is here watching this. I know someone is watching me struggle right now. And it's just... And she's terrified, but she's very determined to get... It is probably one of the best tension-building scenes I've read in a Fear Street book. This book impressed me a lot, and I highly, highly recommend checking it out. I would say, don't spend a ton of money. Don't ever spend a ton of money on any of these books. And if there is, I don't know if there's a Kindle version of this. If there is, that might be the way to go. I just got lucky. I found it for $3 at a half price books. But I know these aren't all easy to... People hold on to these, so they're not always easy to find. So, but this Fear Street has now been introduced into Trash with a capital T, and I am glad it was with a book that I genuinely enjoyed. And we'll probably actually think about revisiting in a couple years. I'm not usually a rereader, but some of these Fear Street books, I think I've read The Prom Queen 3 times. I've read The Secret Bedroom, which wasn't even one of my favorites when I first read it. I think I've read that 2 or 3 times. And on the reread, I was like, this book is bonkers, and I freaking loved it. And this definitely joins the ranks of ones that I truly enjoyed. Now I'm just kicking myself because I sold my copy of Trapped, and I would love to reread that one. Maybe I'll do a Fear Street recommendation video. That could be fun. But I'm glad to finally introduce Fear Street into the wonderful world of Trash with a capital T, and I highly recommend checking out Into the Dark. You will not be disappointed. Paulette is a great main character, and the representation for a character who can't see is actually pretty strong and impressive. And I mean, it is in a long history of thrillers of blind heroines who are dealing with stalkers. It's a trope, but it's handled really well, and I thought it was a really fun book. So, to wrap that up, this video's gone on long enough. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting more. I think I'm going to try and get some Terror Academy and some other of those books kind of worked in to the channel, because I love those old YA 90s thrillers and horror books. So hopefully we'll see more of that. We're not going to probably do the deep dive like we did with the middle grade horror. I'm kind of trying to avoid going back into deep dives like that. But it's probably... You're for sure going to be seeing more Fear Street. So, all right. Back to a repeat of the general housekeeping. New videos are posted at Sunday, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. If you like what you saw, give me a like. Makes me feel good and helps the channel. And if you want to subscribe. I can always use more subscribers. And as I always say, love what you love, enjoy what you're reading and watching, and have an amazing morning, afternoon, or evening. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.